What we'll start with before we today is I guess I just have to ask a question. It's the question that you need to ask yourself when you're kind of starting this journey, when you're starting this financial journey. You really have to ask the question: what is your financial plan? Truly, what is your plan? And the reason I'm saying that is because it's one thing to say you want to understand your finances. It's one thing to say you want to understand where your opportunities are. But you need a goal. You need something that you're trying to attain. So I guess if I give you guys an example, some of us may determine that hey, we want to save $50 a month, or we have a plan that we're going to save $1,000 a year. I think you have to have some fundamental plan, because you can find every little niche and every little opportunity, everything that's out there, and you can say, hey, I can use this, I can use that, this is great, and that is great. But you want to be sure that you have a plan. So if you say, what do I mean by a plan? I would say really look at your finances and determine, is a certain amount of money you want to make, is it a certain amount of money you want to keep, is a certain amount of money that you want to save, is it a certain amount of money you want to invest? And you have to start off with a plan. I mean, you can have all, like I said earlier, you can have all the good information that you want related to your finances and ways to save you money, but it needs to be attached to a plan. What are you doing? Can you save $5,000 a year? Is that even possible? Can you invest $1,000 a year and save $1,000? And nobody knows specifically what your plan can be, because it's going to be related to what you're able to make. It's going to be the amount of money you make and what you spend. But I think most of us can look at our finances and make a high level determination of what we would like to save, be it 5% of that, or you have to do that. I think that's one of the things that we really didn't mention, and we haven't talked a lot about. But look at your finances. So if I had a sheet up in front of me, I would say, step 1, look at your finances. How much do you make? Step 2, how much do you want to save? How much do you want to invest? You ask yourself a couple questions, and then let those questions help determine how you can move forward. A lot of times when it comes to saving, like I think I mentioned it before, you can do it. It can be pretty small. It doesn't always have to be some big large amount of money. That's just not. It's not always necessary to start there. Sometimes just start small so you can build the discipline that you need to build. So you can look at your money and say, hey, I want to save $50 a month, or I want to save $25 a month. Put a plan together. Determine what that looks like. Determine how you can save it. What expense can I cut? Is it possible that I don't eat lunch as much as I would normally do, or I go out to lunch. Maybe I need to pack my lunch for 3 days and then eat lunch for 2 days in order to save $25 a month. You put a plan together and you start, because it always really starts with a plan. So I wanted to make sure I mentioned that today to start. What I also wanted to mention, because we got some feedback from some folks, and we're going to open it up shortly for some questions. It's questions that you can just put into the comment section, and we'll try to speak to them while we're here live. One of the things that they talked to us about, or one of the messages that I got, is they wanted people were interested in us maybe kind of going back over some of the scriptures that we had, some of the scriptures that we had outlined for this class. So what you see up in a little of the corner, you kind of see kind of what does the scripture say related to income. It said, poor is he who works with a negligent hand, but the hand of the diligent makes rich. And I put in parentheses, to properly accumulate, because it's a way to make money, not in a non-proper way. But the scripture was explaining, if you don't work hard, you're going to be broke. But if your hand is diligent, it's going to allow you to properly accumulate, the things that you need to. Very important to know that. And then the next scripture we talked about is it is a blessing. It is a blessing of the Lord that makes rich, and He adds no sorrow to it, which is Proverbs 10:22. At the end of the day, and I always think it's smart to plan. I always think it's very smart to be prepared, find the opportunities that's out there, for your finances. But just know it's a blessing of the Lord that maketh rich, and He adds no sorrow to it. Which is probably the opposite of what you would hear people say from a cultural perspective. People would say more money, more problems. But God has a different view of that, and the Lord has a different view. The next scripture we looked at is, in all labor there is profit, but mere talk leads only to poverty. That's a great one, Proverbs 14:23. Never forget that. That should be one that you truly view and keep. Proverbs 14:23. In all labor there is profit, but mere talk leads only to poverty. It takes action associated with the work that we're doing. If you don't have any action, if it's all talk, you're gonna be broke. The Bible told us that, hundreds of thousands of years ago. All talk. If you're just talking, you're not gonna get anywhere. It provides some level of work, and it's always profit and labor. So always remember that if we're working hard, it's profit in that work, and don't just be a person that's talking, because that's going to lead to poverty. The last scripture we looked at is that a faithful man will abound with blessings, but he who makes haste to be rich will not go unpunished. It's a process of getting, wealth and getting rich. It's a process. A faithful man will abound in blessings. It's a continuity that comes with that. A continuity to continue, and that's why we talk about how you save and how you plan, because all that continuity, it leads you somewhere, and it leads you to a place of blessing. But he who maketh haste, but people who are in a rush to make money, will not go unpunished, because usually rushing leads to something. It leads you down a path that we're not interested in going. We're interested in being faithful and letting the blessings abound. If you look at the next scripture we had, or the next set of scriptures we had, and that was it was Proverbs 21:5 was the first one. It said, the plan of the diligent leads surely to advantage, but everyone who is hasty comes surely to poverty. That's again Proverbs 21:5, and I put slow and steady there. It's a growth, but it's a diligence that comes with it, and if you follow it, it leads you to a path of blessing. When I see this stuff, I just say, wow, this is really interesting, because it's not typically what you hear, but it's what the scripture clearly teaches. It says poverty and shame. This is Proverbs 13:18, which is our next one. It says poverty and shame will come to him who neglects discipline, but he who regards reproof will be honored. Discipline is very important. Practice discipline. I think I tell my younger children as often as I can tell them that you got to practice self-control. And I say it's something you can practice really easily. When you want to go do something, don't do it. When you say, man, I want to get I'm making it up, I want a cookie right now, because we do that, right? When we wake up, we say, man, I want a cookie, I want a bag of chips. Don't get it. Practice self-control. This is a small thing, but we want that to reflect in our finances. Practicing self-control. So when you say, oh man, I need to buy that Snickers, or you say, man, I just want to go buy, whatever you want to buy, some drinks, some candy, some chips, things that you think will just hit the spot. Just practice some discipline, right? Because if you neglect the discipline, wait, what does it say? Poverty and shame come to him who neglects discipline, which means, when I say this, people don't get mad at me, but you're not just broke because the enemy is trying to make you broke.
That's right.
Sometimes you're having an issue because you're neglecting a level of discipline that the scripture has informed us that we need to have. And it's pretty clear. Poverty and shame is coming to you. If you don't have any discipline, you're not going to have anything. But if you regard reproof, that means you're able to listen and hear the wisdom and regard it and do it. You will be honored. That's Proverbs 13:18. Proverbs 15:32 was another one we talked about quickly. It said, he who neglects discipline despises himself, but he who listens to reproof acquires understanding. Proverbs 15:32. If you neglect discipline, you don't even like yourself. You actually hate yourself. This is NSAB. But he who neglects discipline, you hate yourself. Poverty and shame is coming to you if you neglect discipline. But he who listens to reproof acquires understanding. So it's very important. Discipline is a very important key. And that's why I really put it under spending, because it's so important. One of the last scriptures, it said, for which one of you, and this is Luke 14:28, and this is Jesus talking, and he's talking about coming after him, but following him, And he says, for which one of you, when he wants to build a tower, does not first sit down and calculate the cost to see if he has enough to complete it? Because Jesus was comparing following him to being wise and understanding what it's going to take to do that particular thing. And he compared it positively to building a tower and checking the cost and calculating and understanding what you need in order to do it before you do it. If you know, it says does not first sit down. Like, what's the first thing you do? Calculate the cost. See see if you have enough. You have the ability to complete it. You know, clearly, you know, Christ wanted us to use wisdom in what we do. He wanted us to use wisdom. And we'll look at the last sheet, and then we'll open it up for questions, probably from 6:30 on. So some of the last scriptures that we looked at were Proverbs 21:20. It said, "There's a precious treasure and an oil in the dwelling of the wise, but a foolish man swallows it up." Clearly in Proverbs, you know, the explanation is for the riches, for the things that have been gathered, for the things that have been brought in. It was precious treasure. It was oil there. It was abundance. It was more available. It wasn't just all swallowed up and all used. I think it's very important, you know, that this was placed in Proverbs to just it's in the dwelling of the wise. So it's wisdom or wise is a person who's not swallowing up every single thing that they have. And that's why we have to, as a people of God, we have to be smart, and we have to use wisdom in what we're doing. Quickly, because these are the same two, but I think I got two in one. So we'll look at 4 and 5. Proverbs 10:4-5. It says, "Poor is he who works with a negligent hand." We looked at it before, but it's both scriptures in this instead of just 4. "But the hand of the diligent make it rich." And then it says, "He who gathers in the summer is a son who acts wisely, but he who sleeps in harvest is a son who acts shamefully." Discipline, hard work is critical. Being wise. He who gathers in the summer is a son who acts wise. But he who sleeps, you're not going to have anything. If you're not diligent, you're not working hard, you're not going to have anything. That's where it starts. You work hard, and then you also practice diligence. That's what's going to help you in the long term. And then the last one was Proverbs 6:6-8, where he says, "Go to the ant, O sluggard, and observe her ways, and be wise, which has no chief officer or ruler, but prepares her food in the summer and gathers her provision in the harvest." It's very important for us to be wise. Oh, somebody said they hear music.
No, I got it. We took it.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't. I'm sorry. I probably apologize for that. I'm just seeing that comment because I wasn't looking at the comments at the side. But those were the scriptures, and all the scriptures that we use. I guess we could probably put those out there and post the scriptures so you guys can take a look at them and have them. I probably want to stop right there because I want to open it up to some questions. We'll just take questions. You can either put them in the comments or you can ask the questions here. And I will do my best job to answer questions that you have. So you guys can, I guess I should have told you to start preparing questions before this so you could have, thought about what did you want to say. But I'm opening it up now. So if we have any questions here, it's cool. And if we have questions online, we would definitely take them. So I'm gonna somebody sent me a question non-related to finance, which I won't answer on my phone. But if anybody has any questions, we'll try to do our best job of addressing them. So feel free. Yeah, you can just say them wherever you are. if you're here, or if well, I think one of oh, that's interesting. Well, here's somebody asked me an economic question, and you know, it's several things when you start thinking about the economy and what you kind of picture could possibly be happening. You can look, you can look at the stock market. You can look at the fact that we had, Silicon Valley Bank, Signature Bank collapsed, which were significant in comparison and very close to what we've seen in 2008 in terms of the amount of money that those banks were holding. You got a lot of support on the back end from very larger institutions, as well as the Federal Reserve. A lot of those groups are stepping in to help out. But what's happening with that, when you have that, those type of things happening, it becomes more difficult to, maybe get bank loans. It becomes more difficult because money becomes less available. People typically start pulling money out of their bank, and they start either putting it in money markets or larger institutions, which put strains on smaller banks. It puts strains on credit unions that make it more difficult for them to provide the loans and different things. But if somebody asks me, what do you think you should do right now? I would say save your money. Save the money that you can right now. Because it's a potential downturn. I work in finance. I work for AT&T a lot every day. And we look at stuff like this. This is the stuff we look at. We try to determine what do we think is happening. Where do we think the issues are going to be? And we've really been looking at really something happening in the third quarter of this year. That's probably going to be more significant than it's been. I think that. So I'm saying all that to say it's important to save your money right now. It's important to probably not make huge purchases because you might be assuming some additional risk in terms of homes and buying homes. If I think this is just me personally. I don't see a significant drop in the interest rate happening anytime soon. So if you're going to buy now, the interest rate will still come up, but you have to figure out when the rates drop. You have to you're gonna have to refi probably as soon as you can. But I still see the rates increasing, so I probably wouldn't spend a lot of money right now. If it was me personally, I would be more of a saver in this time, because at some point cash is going to be king, right? Cash is king, especially during times when crunch times like this. If economic issues are happening, cash is king.
I noticed a sign up at the restaurant that says we are a cashless facility. And this was the first time that I've ever seen that, and it was at the mall. And I'm wondering if that is, we know that eventually we will have a cashless society. But I never carry cash, but normally I don't carry cash, but I happen to have $20 that I was going to use today as cash. Mm-hmm. And they said only credit cards. They would only take credit cards. So, with the downturn coming up, or you looking at it maybe in October or something of this
third
year.
quarter, third quarter of
Third
this year.
quarter. Do you think that that would mean that everyone would say a cashless society and then we would only be able to use credit cards, which we would have to pay interest on credit cards that we are using because we can't use cash. Do you think that could happen where, I mean, in the very near future or right after the recession starts? Do you think that we won't be able to even use cash?
Well, here's what happens when you have inflation. We can start with that conversation.
Mm-hmm.
When you have inflation, the way you should look at inflation is, and we'll use your example. Inflation means my $20 is going to buy less than it bought prior to the inflation. That's what inflation is. When you hear the word inflation, you should correlate it with my money is going to not be worth as much. So it's interesting to me if at this point if stores are doing that, if stores are saying we're going cashless.
We are cashless.
We're going away from cash. They could be just thinking about the overall uncertainty of cash, or they could be thinking it's easier in what they're trying to do in terms of a system. But let me backtrack though, because it actually costs them to take a card. Like it actually costs them money to take a card. So taking cash is free.
Mm-hmm.
So it's very interesting that's not as sensible for them to not take cash. I don't know if they were just having a problem or they just said they're becoming a cashless store.
No. It was a real sign, not a temporary sign. It was a real sign that they had printed that said we are a cashless facility, and it was actually a restaurant at the Strong Bright Mall. Up there where they have all the restaurants where you eat. It was on one of them. So people were getting in line and they were kind of laughing and saying, "Oh, we can't use cash. We have to use a card." And they were just saying, "Yes, no cash, no cash. We don't want." Not that they ran out of cash. They deliberately did it. And then it was making me really think, will everyone do this? Or is this just because of the recession that may come?
No, I'm sure that you could use a debit card as a card where you wouldn't have to pay interest directly from your bank account.
Mm-hmm.
I think that would be an option because it's a card. It's just debit, like bank transfer.
Yeah, I think you could use a debit card, but what if a person didn't want to use the longer?
Right.
What if you had cash?
Right.
Let's see. Yeah, I'm gonna have to look a little bit into that because I'm curious to, why places are doing that. Because I think it's got to be something else than just like an inflation or the cost of money. Something else has to drive that.
Mm-hmm.
It either has to be security. So if a store doesn't have any money, then they can't be robbed.
Okay.
Right. So if everything is on a card, you can never rob any money. They can't get robbed, and then secondly, maybe they can't go. And it might actually reduce costs because they probably have to have somebody come in and get that cash and transport it to the bank. I don't know if they're doing that themselves. They're hiring a company to do it, like Brinks or something like that. It may be a savings to them to go that route, and it could be a security. It could be based on a number. It could be an efficiency thing too. How many orders can we get in how fast can we do it? Is it quicker to just pop a card and swipe a card than to give somebody cash and then somebody has to put it in the register, then pull out the change and then give it to you? So I mean, I think it could be a couple. It could be a couple things. It shouldn't be related to the economy though, but I'll do some more. I'll look at it.
Can you talk about the option that you can have now with certain banks to use your palms instead of cash or card?
Oh man, what you want me to go to Revelations or something?
Well, that's so that
This
people
is
know
this
that
is
it's
gonna go
not-
from a finance class to the
so
class
people
about
will know
Revelation.
that it's something is happening like that, and maybe they would like to avoid it. Maybe.
So I think I sent that to you as my wife, and I will answer some questions that we see on here.
Or you can say it quickly. If
But
there's
I'll try to say it super quickly. So I got something, and I think I sent it. Who did I send it to? I probably sent it to my wife and to little Rodney. Right, I think it was both my son and my wife. And hold on, honey. I want to look for it because I know it was from Amazon, right?
I can find it. Go ahead and you can speak to it.
Let's see. Oh, we gotta find it.
I can find it.
Okay, just find it and send it to me. So I'll tell you what happened basically before she sends it to me. We got a I think we got something. I think it was related to Amazon, but I'm not sure. And they said, "Hey, we're looking at a new way for you to be able to scan and buy things, and you can do it by the palm of your hand." So what they want to do, it's called it says Amazon One, pay with your palm. So Amazon is saying, yeah. So they offered it to me. They said, hey, your palm is unique to you. You're the only, your palm. You're the only one that has your palm, and it makes checkout a breeze. So instead of having a card, instead of even having your phone and going here and looking that way, you can literally just scan your palm. They will connect the information to, your palm. They'll connect your data, your card data to your palm, and then you can just use your hand. You just go in there and boop and buy stuff.
And they will
Are they saying
eliminate
palm
people
prints is
stealing
like
your
fingerprints?
identity.
They are. Palm prints are like fingerprints, right? Because it's just an extension of a fingerprint, right?
It's got a
Right.
Like, you're the only one that has these things. However your hand is, you're the only one that has that. Nobody else has that but you. I wonder if it's totally symmetrical, because mine kind of looks like it's actually symmetrical in my hands, which is interesting. But yeah, we seen that, and I sent it to my oldest boy, and I sent it to Samantha, and part of me was joking, but I told him, don't get this palm thing from Amazon for Navy Federal. Do not do it. And he said, what? He said, what? Why not? I said, dude, it's too close to the mark of the beast, man. Quit playing. I said, it's too close. I said, you're going to do that, and then you're going to say, oh, my life is easy. And then when they tell you take the mark of the beast, you're going to say, hey, I'm already using my handprint. That's nothing. I said, so don't go. It's a slippery slope. So I'm telling you guys that to tell you guys to always be careful. It's definitely a lot of things that are available. And sometimes, and this is me, and this is how I know it's bad, because some of it to me makes sense. And anything that makes sense is typically like it makes sense to me. I said, man, well, not just that, but I just thought, man, it'd be nice if you could put everybody's medical records in their hand, but based on their palm print. Like if you could put all your information that exists, whether you went somewhere and they said, do you have your You have your Social Security card, and you go, boop. And they're like, yes, because they have it associated with your property. Do you have this? You never have to carry anything again. Boop. And they always have your information. I said, man, that would be nice. Somebody gets sick, they fall out on the ground, don't nobody know who they is. Boop. Scan their hands, see who they are. See who they are, who their family is, who their emergency contacts are, what they're sick, what they're allergic to. I mean, I see it. And I see those benefits, but
That's fearful.
I know it's kind of scary. Oh, Revelations 13.
Why then, as a Christian, would we want to look out for something like that?
Oh, well, in Revelations 13, 16, 17, and I'll probably close with this. It said, he, the beast of the sea, also forced everyone, small and great, rich and poor, free and slave, to receive a mark on his right hand or on his forehead, so that no one could buy or sell unless he had the mark. And that's why I told my kids, don't get the pomegranate, because you starting way too close. I mean, I understand the practical use of how it could be good, but I'm 100% sure I wouldn't do it because I think you're getting that close. Now, some people say they don't want it. Now, what did Carlos say? Does Robinhood app give you step-by-step instructions? You know what? For that, I could probably provide you guys with a link to a really good YouTuber who has good step-by-step instructions of how to go through it and how to do the reporting. I can get that, and that's easy for you guys. Let's see, what other question we have. What scriptures talk about sowing financial seeds? And what is the foundation of seed offering? What scriptures talk about sowing financial seeds?
1 Corinthians, the 9th chapter. It's one of them, I think. 1 Corinthians 9.
Well, let's pull it up on our phone. Let's pull it up.
9
Is it First Corinthians 9,
1 Corinthians 9 here. Let's see.
6 through 8? Let's see.
Yeah,
Let's make sure we're right, Johnny. No, First Corinthians 9? Is it 2 Corinthians? Well, we're gonna have it.
2 Corinthians.
I think it's 2 Corinthians 9. Let's see.
Okay. I know it's 1 Corinthians.
So where is 6? But
If that's not
But this I say, he which soweth sparingly shall reap also sparingly, and he which soweth bountifully shall reap also bountifully. Every man according to as he has purposed in his heart, so let him give, not grudgingly or out of necessity, for God loveth a cheerful giver.
okay.
Because he always gives seed to the sower.
Gotcha.
Can you put the link in the comments?
We'll put the link in the comments before it's over. Today we'll put the link in the comments. Well, we can just go ahead and put those links in the comments right now, if you can. And then let's see what else we have. So those links will come.
I have a question about the banks. I mean, I know you don't have all the information on the perspective of what the future is going to hold for us. I mean, you know, you probably have a good idea working in finances, but I'm, concerned as to financially, if the banks, is it possible for all the banks to shut down? I mean, would the Federal Reserve be able to still maintain the economy if all the banks, I mean, like the banks in the United States mostly closed down, well, maybe just the major banks closed. Would the Federal Reserve be able to keep our system going?
Well, hey, the Federal Reserve can loan as much money as they like to the United States.
Okay.
So yes, can that reduce the value of the dollar? Yes, that's the problem with stuff like that. If that happened, like if the banks collapse and then you have to print more money to uphold the banks, then you run into the issue of the value of the dollar going down, significantly from what it is. So yes, it can work. I would personally think that your big banks are not gonna collapse. That's just typically not what happens with the really larger banks. They're not gonna collapse. It's usually the mid tier and the smaller ones that get hit the hardest during times like this.
Okay. What about the credit union?
Well, they're smaller than the banks.
Okay.
Yeah, and they probably lend more money than the banks do too. So
Okay.
they're more susceptible to it. But I believe what we've seen with the other two banks is the FDIC and the Federal Reserve came in and said, "Hey, we're gonna honor, what those accounts, the amount of money you guys had in those accounts. They're working that out to make sure that people get all the money." And then I think with Signature Bank, what is it, Signature or Citizens, some of the larger banks got together and said, "Hey, we'll give you, $80 million or to help you through it." So the bigger banks are trying to help some of the smaller banks, because just a banking collapse just means all the money that you have is worth less. It's in everybody's interest to not have that happen, because you don't want your $20 to be worth 15.
Right.
And but you guys have seen that in your lifetimes. So
Yeah.
some of you have been around for a while. You've seen that in your lifetimes, and that's why they tell those stories. They tell those stories and say, "Hey, my parents would tell the story when they were younger. They have a quarter or something, and they go buy all the stuff. And it had to do with the value of the dollar. And the reason you can't do it now is the dollar is worth way less now than it was then. That's why everything costs more. So we want to try to avoid that." Let's see. Let me see this.
One thing I got a question. How do they equate the value of the dollar? How do they judge the value of the dollar? Somebody just say a dollar is only worth 39 cents and it's not worth 39 cents?
Now at one point, yeah, the dollar was being upheld by a gold standard. So we used to build our value based on the gold standard, and then we printed so much money that we could not do it. But the thing with the dollar is its value. It's really like how can I say it? It's more like the cost of the dollar, and in terms of how the dollar is traded, because the dollar is the main thing that all countries use to buy stuff. So if I'm China and I buy stuff from Russia, they use the dollar. Everybody uses the dollar as the main currency. So it's like when you factor in what it's worth, it's like it's how it's being traded, and and the strength of United States as a whole. Like we have treasuries, right? And you can buy treasury bonds, and we've never defaulted on a treasury bond ever in the history of America. That means if you buy a treasury bond, you're gonna get the pay. If it's a 30-year pay, everybody's got it. They've got it in the 30 years. So it's like we're just a really strong economy, and then our dollar is the main currency that's used as trade. Because typically when you trade something, you can't use your own money. You usually have to buy the money from the other country. That's typically like, if you go to North Korea, South Korea, you want to buy something, you have to buy the South Korean dollar, you know, in order to buy their goods. So that's what happened to us. We buy so much stuff, everybody gets dollars, and everybody uses, you know, dollars as the exchange. So we're strong right now, as long as they don't switch to the euro or something. Now let's see, and I got to answer two questions. What is your opinion on these new credit building apps? I would tell you this, Johnny, and there's the credit building apps. I think anything that you can do that someone's trying to sell you, anything that someone's trying to sell you on an application or an app for your phone is typically something that you can do on your own for free. So I would always say you're your best resource when it comes to credit building. Because you know, you can look on the internet, you can find 500 companies that'll say, yeah, we'll do that. You'll find other companies that say, sign up with us and we'll give you, you know, you'll have this kind of money and you put this kind of money in and we can help you build that. But in all honesty, the best resource you have is truly yourself. I've never used a credit building app in my life, and I probably never would, because we have all those opportunities. We can do all that work ourselves now. We can really look, we can see where our issues are, and we can address them ourselves for free. It usually doesn't cost you any money to do it. So that would be my approach. And if you wanted to know how, we'd have to talk again. But it's really simple. You can do it yourself. Let's see. Now, what else do we have?
Before you stop that, what about the credit building apps that are without cost? I mean, they're app that's a free app that comes with your phone to help you, or sort of point you in the right direction as to what to do. Would you recommend that we would use a free credit?
Well, I think if you have an application that's showing you your credit, and you have an application then it's for free, and it's showing you how you can dispute it, and then you can utilize the app to dispute it, you know, and follow that process. Yes, that's good. As long as it's at no cost to you. When something becomes a cost, pay me $100, pay me $50 to do this. That's when it to me is almost more of a scam, because you can do it yourself.
Which app do you use?
Oh, I use AutoCAD. I start with Credit Karma. I start with that one. Experian has their own app that you can use. I think Credit Sesame charges you, though, I think. Doesn't it?
They have some of it free, and then
some of it is free, and you have an option of charging. So whatever the free piece is, you use what's free. But I use those, you know. Then I use I take all the views that I can take from the credit cards. I'm sorry, thanks for scrolling down. I take all the views that I can take from credit cards to try to understand my different, you know, FICO scores versus different Vantage scores, and kind of work my way that way. But all of that is free.
And you can dispute on Credit Karma?
You can dispute on Credit Karma all day, every day, if that's what you want to do. You can go in there and easily dispute anything. You can do it in less than 10 seconds.
And you personally keep your credit cards at what minimum? Like what percentage to build your credit?
I would say your best way, the best percentage that you can use. The richest people, when I say the richest people, let me backtrack. The best credit that you can have, when you're talking about the people who have like 850 scores and higher, you usually have 7 to 8% of credit utilization, and so that means what? If you have like $100,000 worth of credit, they have $7,000 to $8,000 that of usage on $100,000 worth of credit. Those people have the highest credit score that you can have. So I would say if you can get in the teens, my goal is to always be to try to get in the low teens. If you can get 10 to 15%, you're doing good. Actually, you're doing amazing. If you can get to 10 to 15%, you better.
I feel like you hit a ceiling once you get to 7, and it seems like you hit a ceiling
And you can't
where you can't get
go no higher.
past that. I mean, it's like
Well, 'cause
somebody's got a book to tell us how to get past the 7 to 8. I mean, you say you paying all your bills on time. You are using only a certain percentage of your credit card, but your credit score just stays the same.
Well, typically, your main factors of your credit scores is, paying your payment history, your credit utilization, which is probably your main one, and then the age of your credit, and then if you have any public records, there's like any public records or delinquency or collection, those are like your 4 major things that's driving your credit score. So
Driving it down.
no, those are the main factors. Yeah, if you don't have it, it's
Well,
helping you.
don't have that. What
If you
don't
have it, then it's driving it down. So if you don't have it, then
It goes up.
and this is why you probably hear me a lot say you need to establish credit. You need more credit and a lower credit utilization. Like, sometimes
That's the
we
key.
think it's weird, but it's the key. If you can get the credit card company to give you $150,000, if you're just gonna go use 5, 6, 7,000, your credit score is gonna be extremely high because somebody's looking at you and saying you have all this available money and you only spend this much, which to them means you only need that much. You know what I'm saying? And you're managing to that. So you typically can't grow without having more credit and lower credit utilization. And they kind of go together a lot of times. You get a new credit card, they give you another $1,000. Now you increase. That's automatically going to make your utilization go down. Which is why I say to have as many. I don't tell you just to go crazy, but you need to have as many as you can get, and you should really gotta try to get them as high as you possibly can. Don't spend on them like that, but just have the credit high. If you got 10 credit cards with $25,000 on them a piece, your credit score is going to be very high, especially if you even like I said. No, I'm talking about the total amount of credit that you have. Yeah. If you had $25,000 on each and you had 10, $250,000, and then you using, $5,000 or $10,000, you've won. Even if you at that point, even if you're losing $20,000, you've pretty much won the credit game because it's hard to grow the age of your credit, right? Because that just takes time. That just takes year after year after year. That's the quickest thing that you can do in terms of increasing your numbers. And if you keep increasing that, you'll keep growing it.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
So to that point, how often or soon should you apply for like credit cards? Like you get one, you get approved. Should you wait a certain amount of time before you apply for another one? So that you don't.
Yeah, it's a few strategies. It's a few strategies that you can use. Typically depending on what card, it's usually a process with each one of those cards to get your credit increase. A lot of times, it's like 90 days. Like it's a 90-day thing where, and this is how you can avoid the inquiry too. Like you get the initial inquiry when you get the card. 90 days later, you are able to go back to your credit card company and ask for an increase. Well, they'll do a soft inquiry, but they'll give you that increase. So I would say soft increase, you know, you want to look at like 90 days and weigh that out, and you should be looking at it almost every 3 months to look for where your opportunity could be. But you want to avoid hard inquiries, right? So you want to do it in a way that it's always a soft inquiry. Now, in its totality, different companies do different stuff. You know, Chase has a couple rules where, you know, if you have like 5 inquiries to anybody in the last 2 years, they don't approve you. Period. So different companies have different ways. So it depends on kind of what you're going after. But what I say is, you go after something. If you can do it with a soft inquiry to start, that's great. If you got to go a hard inquiry, you can go, but you have to then look for soft inquiries as you grow it. You know, as you grow the amount you have. And different companies just do different companies do different things. Some companies will say, yeah, we're gonna do a hard inquiry. You probably don't want to go that route with them. But a lot of other credit card companies won't do that. You just have to look at which ones do and which ones don't. But yeah, I would say at least three to 4 times a year you should be looking at. You should be looking at that.
Once you have that hard inquiry, how do you get rid of it?
Typically 2 years it's on there. It usually falls off after 2 years. You know.
Why you say usually? That means it could stay on?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's supposed to fall off, but everything is not perfect all the time. This is what, you know, that's why you have to keep up with your stuff and say, hey, this should be gone. Yeah, that is true. Yeah, you have to look at it, watch it, you know, dispute it, make sure that it's working, make sure that it's accurate. So I'm gonna see. Did we miss something? Let me see. I'm sorry, 'cause I noticed we're past time, but did we miss anything? They said Jesus rose from the dead, and that they walked in there, and his body was gone. So is he in the flesh? Oh, well, obvious. I'll probably write you to I'll probably write the answer. Is it no?
No, yeah.
Yeah, I'll write to answer you. Write to answer you on that one. Because so I'll make sure that's on Facebook, right? So I'll make sure I'll come back out there and answer that last one in the comments. I'll answer it for you in the comments. Yeah. So again, just have some discipline and just take time to look at your stuff. Take time to look at what you have and put a plan in place. We should all have hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of credit available to us, of which we only use, a few thousand. That's what you want, because that's what helps us get, kind of helps your credit to be where it needs to be, so that you can get the things that you need to get for cheaper.
But if you have but you're not going to use all these cards, okay? We was having a conversation not long ago, and I tell you what, I got the cards, and the cards, they work for me, and you were saying, hey, Dad, you probably get some more, and I'm like,
you need more, right?
Like, I got what I need, okay? Because I'm not gonna, if I get them, I'm not gonna use them. I'm not gonna be running around pulling out credit cards everywhere. But just throw them in the drawer in there.
Throw them in the drawer. Go buy yourself something and then throw it in the drawer.
So you need to use it.
You gotta put something on it for it to count.
But it doesn't have to be much.
No, it don't have to be much, but you gotta put something on it for it to count. You get a credit card, go buy you something. Buy you $100, something, and then put it in the drawer. And then pay that $100, and then once it gets low, you gotta put something else on there.
Okay. All right.
So hey, we thank everybody for joining us today, and we thankful for all the good questions that we were able to get from everyone here. And like I said, I'll go out there on Facebook and answer the question that we have. So I'll tell you all, have a fine Thursday, and just tune in next week when I think Pastor Gerald is going to start his Thursday night
Back to the
Bible class. So you guys have a great one.